In a land where the sun rose golden over mist-wrapped hills and whispers of the past lingered in the scent of old stones, there lived a girl no one truly saw, not as she was. Her name was Anika. She swept the floors of a grand house, her hands cracked by cold water and harsh soap. And though the walls of the mansion echoed with riches, laughter, and silk-draped lives, her world was silent, until a buried truth began to stir from centuries of slumber. The mansion of Darul Zara stood tall atop the hill of Saranja, a place so old even the rivers below murmured tales of empires long forgotten. Its stone arches bore carvings of serpents, peacocks, and sun wheels, each a relic of a kingdom lost to time. Within these walls lived the Rajdan family, lords of salt mines and silk caravans, famed for their power, feared for their pride. But beneath the silk sheets and jeweled halls, there was rot. And scrubbing that rot day and night was Anika, a girl of 20 summers, thin as a reed and silent as dusk. No one knew from whence she came. One stormy night, years ago, a village elder had brought her as a child, soaked to the bone, wrapped in a shawl bearing an embroidered crest, a gold hawk over a black mountain. The old man had said nothing. Simply left her with the staff, and disappeared into the monsoon haze. That shawl had long been taken. Replaced with rags. Now Anika rose before the stars fled the sky. She washed the marble floors before the lady of the house woke, for Lady Rihanna hated to see footprints in her corridors. She plucked lint from carpets. Washed dishes with her fingers numb in winter. Polished chandeliers whose glass teardrops never cried. And if she failed, if a single speck of dust dared dance in the morning sun, she would hear it. Useless little rat. Rihanna's sharp voice would echo down the corridor, followed by the sting of a copper ladle, or worse, mocking laughter from the twin daughters, Noor and Zaina. To them, Anika was less than a shadow. Less than the wind that passed them by. And yet, she remained. Not for gold. Not for safety. But for a dream she dared not name. Each night, as the mansion slumbered, Anika crept to the old library. There, behind a tapestry of a three-eyed lion, lay a cracked book of tales. Written in ancient Marwari, its pages sang of kingdoms lost beneath the earth, of queens who hid their daughters in baskets of reeds and whispered their names into the wind. One such story always made her heart ache. In the year of the Crimson Eclipse, a child was stolen from the house of the Mountain Hawk. Taken by those who feared her blood, hidden by those who feared the wrath of the gods. She would grow among strangers, yet the blood would sing back to its source. When the time is ripe, the hawk shall return. Anika didn't know why this made her hands tremble. She only knew that sometimes, when she stood alone in the garden and the wind blew through the cypress trees, she heard it. A whisper. Child of the hawk. But whispers do not feed the belly. Nor warm the hands. So each day she folded the ache back into her soul, like the notes of a forgotten lullaby. One morning, as Anika knelt to clean the grand hall, a visitor arrived. A black carriage, draped in velvet, rolled into the courtyard. The horse's hooves struck the stones like drums of war. Out stepped a man, tall, silver-haired, with skin the color of cinnamon bark and eyes like storm clouds. He bore a cane carved with the crest of the mountain hawk. Lord Arif Dar, master of all lands east of the Sindh River. The true owner of Darul Zara. Rihanna bowed deeply. My lord, such honor, please, may we offer. But Arif waved her off with a stare that chilled summer. His voice, when it came, was soft, but heavy with something deeper than age. I do not come for pleasantries. Anika stood frozen, her cloth in hand, her knees cold on the stone. She looked up briefly, and his eyes passed over her. Not with contempt. But with something else. A flicker of confusion, or recognition. And then it was gone. He walked past her. She bent her head low, heart racing. Later that evening, the whispers swirled among the staff. The master of the estate had returned for reasons unknown. Some said he had seen death in a dream. Others said the salt mines had revealed a secret chamber with bones and old armor. But old Radha, the cook, swore she heard him speak to himself. She would be 20 now. If she lives. That night, Anika returned to the library. The book was gone. The tapestry had been moved. And beneath it, carved freshly into the stone, was a sigil she had seen only once, burned into the hem of the shawl she'd worn as a child. The mountain hawk. She reached out to touch it, and the stone pressed inward. A section of the wall groaned open. She stepped inside. A narrow stair spiraled downward into darkness. The air smelled of old parchment and jasmine. She could hear her own breath. And faintly, beneath it, the sound of weeping. Someone else was here. Or something. She climbed down, heart pounding. The light grew dimmer until all she could see were the glimmers of oil lamps, lit, though no one had been here in ages. At the bottom was a circular chamber. Carvings lined the walls, of women with braided crowns, holding hawks in their arms. Of a child in a cradle of gold, floating down a river. And at the center, a mirror. Ancient. Its frame etched with vines and suns. She stepped closer. The glass rippled. And she saw a child, newborn, swaddled in the shawl. A woman wept above her. Then flames. Screaming. A soldier running. The baby passed from arms to arms, until placed in the arms of a wandering elder. And then. Anika. The mirror stilled. Anika fell back, gasping. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps above. Heavy. Rushed. Guards. Find her, a voice growled. She was in the library. Anika turned. No way out but up. She raced the spiral, hands scraping on the cold stone, breath ragged. But just as she neared the top, a shadow blocked the way. Lord Arif. He stared at her, eyes wide. Then whispered, "It cannot be." Before she could speak, a blow struck her head from behind. Darkness. The house of Kwamapramoko, the mansion of the falls, stood high on the red cliffs of Ntagusio, where birds flew beneath your feet and time moved like slow thunder. Its walls, carved from obsidian and clay, bore the faces of lion kings and crowned mothers, reminders of a people who once ruled with wisdom and war. Inside those walls lived the family of the great merchant Bwana Sala Rajdan, whose empire stretched from the diamond lands of the east to the salt lakes of the west. But power, child, is like a calabash of honey left open too long, it spoils. And inside this house, the sweetness had long turned bitter. Among the shadows swept Anika, the girl with skin like roasted maize and eyes too old for her age. No clan claimed her. No spirit named her. They said she came in the season when lightning danced sideways, a storm child. The old woman Mzee found her near the riverbanks, wrapped in a cloth no one in the village recognized, embroidered with a golden hawk flying over dark mountains. That cloth disappeared the day she was brought into Kwamapramoko. And so, she scrubbed. She washed. She bowed. Lady Rahima, mistress of the house, walked like she had leopards for legs and a snake for a tongue. Faster, rat, she'd snap, throwing dust in Anika's path just to watch her bend again. The two daughters, Naima and Zara, giggled behind hands that wore gold rings on every finger. But none looked her in the eyes. For if they had, maybe they would have seen what the wind already knew. Each night, when the fire in the hearth died to embers, Anika stole into the forbidden corner of the house, the old drum room. Once used for the royal rhythms of the ancestors, now abandoned. There, hidden beneath a broken stool, lay an aged scroll, thick as a cow's hide, marked in ancient Swahili and Old Kingdom glyphs. Its stories spoke of lands beneath rivers, of daughters who vanished during the night of shadows, of spirits who carried royal bloodlines hidden among the common. One tale made her breath pause. In the time of red moons, a daughter of the mountain hawk was taken by jealous blood. She was placed in the arms of silence. But when the winds change and the hawk returns to the cliff, the blood will sing and the ancestors will rise. She didn't know why this story made her chest tight. Only that when the drums from the village echoed up the hill during harvest, her heart beat with them, as if calling someone she had never met. Then came the day the earth shifted. It began with the sound of hooves. The great black chariot rolled through the mansion's gate like a lion entering a cattle fold. Out stepped a man whose skin was bronze like sun-baked wood, his eyes deep like the river before floods. His cane bore the mark, the mountain hawk. Not even Lady Rahima dared to look him too long in the eye. This, they said, was Mzi-Arif-Dar, elder of the forgotten highlands, keeper of ancestral lands, and the true owner of the mansion. He walked slowly. Not with weakness, but with weight, like he carried the bones of generations on his shoulders. And as he passed Anika, who was kneeling by the mosaic floor, something flickered in his gaze. Recognition? A whisper? The man paused. Anika raised her eyes. Just a breath. Then he moved on. That night, the air was thick with gossip. The old lion returns, the guard said. He's seen something in his dreams, muttered Mama Jalea, the cook, as she crushed cassava leaves. He said it aloud. She would be 20 now. If she still walks this land. Anika's hands trembled. She returned to the drum room. The scroll was gone. The stool moved. And behind the stone carving of the lion goddess Ndahura, someone had scraped a mark into the wall, a sigil old as the rock it lay upon. The mountain hawk. Her fingers touched it. A click. The floor trembled. A trapdoor opened. Darkness waited. She climbed down, step after step, into the belly of the house. The air changed, filled with incense and old blood. Along the walls, she saw drawings, women with braided hair like crowns, cradling hawks with burning eyes. One image stopped her, a baby floating downriver in a basket, wrapped in the cloth she remembered from her childhood. At the center of the chamber stood a mirror. Not glass, obsidian, smooth and ancient. Its frame was made of bones and ivory. Anika stepped forward. The mirror shimmered. She saw flames. She saw a woman screaming her name. She saw hands passing a baby to an old man beneath a full moon. Then the vision faded. Anika stood frozen. Footsteps pounded above. Voices called. Check the library. The girl has vanished. She turned to flee. But there, at the top of the stair, stood the old lion himself, Mzi-Arif-Dar, staring down with wide eyes. He spoke not with fear, but with awe. It cannot be. And then, darkness. A blow. The girl fell. The next morning, the sun rose with teeth. Clouds gathered like vultures in the sky above Kwamapramoko, casting long shadows over its stone walls. The villagers, always up with the first rooster call, kept their eyes low. They felt it too, the shift in the wind. The thrum of the earth beneath their feet. In the mansion, word spread like locusts in a millet field. The servant girl wears the crest of the mountain hawk. She sits with Mzi-Arif like a lioness beside her king. They say she is his blood, his granddaughter. To the workers, it stirred a strange hunger, not of the belly, but of memory. They remembered the old chants. The banners that once flew. The matriarchs who walked barefoot and unafraid. But to Lady Rahima and her daughters, it was venom. She will destroy everything, Zara hissed. What if people listen to her? They won't, said Rahima, her voice cold as iron. We'll make sure of that. And so they began their plan, silent, subtle. Like a cobra beneath tall grass. Meanwhile, Mzi-Arif took Anika beyond the mansion walls for the first time in years. Through winding goat paths, across whispering streams, they climbed to the ancient shrine of Nkodayam Lamani, the hawk of the mountain. A circle of stones carved with sacred names, where only the bloodline of the hawk was once allowed to kneel. As they approached, elders from neighboring clans gathered, their walking sticks drumming the earth with respect. They had heard. And they had come. Old Mama Wanjiru, with eyes like cracked glass, stepped forward and placed her hand over Anika's chest. "You carry the heartbeat of thunder," she said. "But do you carry the will to follow it?" Anika said nothing. Instead, she knelt upon the sacred stone, placed her palm in the center of the symbol, and whispered the name that had come to her in dreams. Nalia. The stone pulsed. The air shifted. And for the first time in 20 years, the great hawk carved into the cliffside opened its stone eyes. Gasps. Prayers. One elder dropped to his knees and shouted, "She is the one. The child of prophecy. The mountain lives again." Nzi-Arif said nothing. His silence was thunder enough. But Anika, her heart was at war. She was no queen. She was a servant. She had eaten from cracked bowls, scrubbed floors with bleeding hands, been spat on, cursed, forgotten. Could such a girl truly carry the weight of the forgotten throne? Yet the stones had spoken. And the land does not lie. But while blessings fell upon the mountain, darkness stirred in the valley. In a hidden chamber beneath the salt mines, a man stirred a bowl of blackened oil. His skin bore tattoos of the Watawa Kivuli, the people of shadow, ancient mercenaries once hired to erase bloodlines and burn legacies. His name was Kivuli. And he had once hunted Nalia. Now, he was hired again, for her daughter. He watched as the oil bubbled. Within it, her face shimmered. Anika. Eyes of flame. A birthmark on her wrist. He smiled without joy. "A hawk is still a bird," he whispered. "And birds can be broken." Back at Kwamaparamoko, Lady Rahima prepared her final move. In the dining hall, she greeted Anika with a serpent's smile. "My dear," she said, as servants laid down roast goat and cassava stew, "let us forget the past. Let us be family." Anika narrowed her eyes. "I have no family here." Rahima laughed. "Oh, but you do. You cleaned my floors. You ate my scraps. I cloaked you. Housed you." Anika stood. "You enslaved me." Silence. Even the wind dared not move. Then Rahima's voice dropped to a whisper. "You think the people will follow you? That blood alone gives you a throne? No. They will turn on you. Just as they did your mother. And when they do, I'll be there, to finish what was started." Nzi-Arif rose, voice low. "If you touch her." Rahima spat. "You're already too late, old man. The shadows are already moving." And then she walked out. That night, Anika could not sleep. She wandered into the old courtyard, where fireflies danced and the drums from the distant village rose like prayers. She remembered how many nights she had cried here. Alone. Hidden. Empty. Now she stood tall. Wrapped in the same shawl that once held her as a babe. But power is a lonely companion. She turned to the statue of the hawk and whispered, "If I am to lead, show me how." The wind answered. Soft at first, then fierce. Leaves spun around her feet. And from above, the cry of a real hawk. It circled once. Twice. Then vanished into the stars. Far away, in the salt mines, Kivuli sharpened his blade. A messenger approached. "She walks with the old man. They're heading to the coast. The sacred tombs." Kivuli smiled. "Good." He dipped the blade in poison. And whispered, "Let the bloodline end, with her." The journey to the coast began before dawn. Nzi-Arif and Anika rode in silence, their caravan guided by two trusted guards, drums tied to their backs, spears tucked beneath flowing cloaks. The road ahead was long, cutting through the dry savannas of Lungula, past termite hills and lonely baobabs that stood like ancient watchers. They were heading to the tombs of Yukoka, the resting place of the Hawk matriarchs, a forbidden ground to most, but not to her. Not to the last daughter. As the wheels creaked and the wind rustled the tall grass, Arif shared stories. Your great-grandmother, he said, once silenced a war between 3 tribes with only a whisper. She walked into a battlefield wearing white and a necklace of teeth from her ancestors. She did not raise a spear. She raised a memory. And the warriors wept. Anika listened, her eyes fixed on the horizon. But why me? She asked at last. Why not someone stronger? Wiser? He looked at her, his gaze sharp as a lion's tooth. Because you remember pain. Because you know what it is to be invisible. And those who have suffered in silence, they do not forget the voice that frees them. They traveled for 2 days. On the 3rd night, under a sky heavy with stars, they camped near the river Mbambwe. The air was still. The flames crackled. Crickets sang their ghost song. Anika dreamt of fire. Of wings. Of her mother's face, smiling, then vanishing into shadow. When she woke, the guards were gone. And the air was wrong. From the darkness stepped a man. Tall. Scarred. Eyes like ash. He held a curved blade soaked in a sheen of black poison. Kivuli, Arif whispered. The Shadow Man. He once burned the sacred village of Mazunguko to the ground, chasing the children of a rival chief into the flames. A hunter of bloodlines. A ghost in human skin. I've come to finish what was left undone, Kivuli growled. His voice was sand scraping bone. Anika stepped forward. Fear trembled in her chest. But something deeper rose. She did not flinch. I am the child you could not silence, she said. Strike me, and the earth itself will rise to bury you. Kivuli laughed. The earth obeys no girl. But just as he moved, the drums began. Low. Steady. From all directions. It was the drum of the Red Daughters, a rhythm only used by the hidden matriarchs, the old bloodlines that had scattered when the house of the Hawk fell. One by one, cloaked figures emerged from the trees. Women. Elders. Warriors. Dozens of them, surrounding the firelight. Their faces painted with red clay and white ash. Their necklaces made of eagle feathers and shells. You come for a child, said one of them, her staff glowing with fire charms. But she is not alone. Kivuli spat. You cannot stop fate. No, said the elder. But we can change it. And with a sudden crack, she slammed her staff to the ground. Fire roared up around Kivuli, circling him like a storm. He turned to strike. But Anika was faster. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She stepped into the circle of flame, raised her hand. And called his name. Not the one he gave himself. But his real name. Tendo. He froze. His blade dropped. How? I saw you in the mirror of the ancestors. You were once a boy who wanted peace. You ran from fire. But they made you into fire. They used your pain. Kivuli staggered back. The circle broke. And just like that, he vanished into the dark. Not dead. But broken. After the fire was doused and the guardians faded back into the trees, Mzee Arif turned to Anika. How did you know his name? I didn't, she said. It came to me, like a whisper. He nodded slowly. Your awakening. The blood remembers. The next morning, they reached the tombs of Yukoka. A place where the cliffs wept mist. Where the stones were carved in ancient tongues no one had spoken in 1,000 years. They stood before the tomb door, sealed by a sacred riddle. Only she who knows the pain of fire and the silence of forgotten names, may pass. Anika stepped forward. She whispered, My name is Anika Nalia. daughter of the hawk. The stone glowed. The door opened. Inside was a chamber of silence. Torches flickered to life with no hand. Statues of the matriarchs lined the walls, their eyes hollow, yet watching. At the center, a throne of obsidian, surrounded by water that reflected no face. Anika stepped to the throne. Saturday. And for the first time, she felt it, the weight of the women before her. The sorrow. The strength. In the silence, the voice of her mother came. Let your crown not be gold. Let it be memory. Let your power be your pain, your strength be your silence. Rise, as queen of the forgotten. Above the tombs, the wind howled. And far away, in the villages and fields and broken towns where servants still knelt in silence. They felt it. A change in the air. A heartbeat returning. The hawk was flying again. The return from the tombs of Yukoka was not triumphant. It was quiet. Still. Like the silence before the first raindrop touches dry earth. Anika walked ahead of the caravan now, not behind, not beside, ahead. The shawl of the mountain hawk wrapped over her shoulders, its embroidery glowing faintly beneath the sun. But her eyes had changed. They no longer darted like a servant's, fearful of the next slap or order. They held knowing. The kind that comes not from books or speech, but from being chosen by the land itself. In the villages along the coastal path, the elders whispered when she passed. She walks like the old queens. They say the stones opened for her. Is it true? Has the hawk returned? Children ran barefoot behind her caravan, humming old chants that hadn't been sung in 20 winters. And in secret corners of the land, where women still traced clan symbols into their homes with charcoal and men sharpened spears in silence, the name Anika was passed from tongue to tongue like a seed ready to bloom. But in Kwamapramoko, the snake was shedding its skin. Lady Rahima, once adorned in jewels and pride, now wore fear like perfume. She felt it, dripping from the ceiling, woven into the silence of the maids, reflected in the eyes of her own daughters, who had begun to question everything. Zara, she snapped one night, you will not attend that village gathering. But mother, they're singing her name. Anika. She is of us. And if she truly bears the blood, she bears a lie. Rahima screamed. But the more she fought the tide, the more it rose against her. Even the servants, once mute under her cruelty, began to straighten their backs. Old Mama Jalea, who'd cooked in silence for 30 years, began humming mountain lullabies in the kitchen. The household was shifting. And Rahima knew, time was slipping. So she went to the only power older than truth. Darkness. Deep in the mangrove swamps of Vegito, where fireflies guided spirits and crocodiles swam in silence, there lived Mganga, a shadow seer known as Bibi Tembo. Her hut was made of bones and her mouth tasted only salt and secrets. Rahima came with gold. With blood. With rage. I want her broken, she whispered. I want the people to fear her. I want her to fall. Bibi Tembo, blind but smiling, crushed a black beetle between her teeth and laughed. You want to kill a hawk? You better make sure your bones are heavier than its wings. But Rahima persisted. And so the curse was made. A talisman carved from ivory soaked in sorrow. A whisper to the river. A calling to the spirits of silence. She will dream of fire, said Bibi Tembo. And if she is not strong, she will burn from within. That night, as Anika and her caravan camped beneath the Nyoka trees, she dreamed again. But this time, it was not her mother's face she saw. It was herself. Alone. Crowned. Surrounded by smoke. The trees whispered, they will betray you. The river hissed, you are not queen. You are orphan. She awoke choking. The fire had gone out. The sky was red. But no one else stirred. Only her. And in her palm, the ivory talisman. Still warm. Still whispering. She did not tell Mzierif. She did not speak of the dream. But the fire stayed with her. Not outside, but inside. Burning just behind her ribs. She clenched her jaw and pressed forward. She would not be broken. She had tasted the salt of forgotten blood. And that blood now boiled with warning. When they returned to Kwamapramoko, the villagers were waiting. Drums beat in slow rhythm. Women with painted foreheads and woven belts lined the path. Men held spears pointed downward, a sign of respect, not war. The gates of the mansion opened. And for the first time in living memory, Anika entered through the front door. Lady Rahima stood waiting at the top of the stairs. Her face a mask. Zara and Naima behind her, unsure where to stand. Anika met her gaze. I return not to beg. Not to serve. But to speak the truth. Rahima's lip curled. You are nothing but a girl in a dead woman's cloth. Anika stepped forward. Then why does the land open for me? Why do the drums call my name? The crowd stirred. Rahima's fingers twitched. But before she could speak, Mzee Arif raised his voice. I hereby declare, by the rights of the hawk and the laws of the earth, that Anika Nalia is rightful heir to the mountain lineage. Let any who doubt it bring forth blood, or silence forever. A hush fell. Then a woman stepped from the crowd. Old. Scarred. Wearing the amulet of Waziwakati, the council of the Middle Lands. I have seen the visions, she said. The mountain weeps no longer. The river bends again. Let the girl speak. And Anika did. She told her story. Not grand. Not proud. But true. She spoke of soapwater hands and cold kitchens, of loneliness deeper than any mine. She spoke of stone mirrors and forgotten names. Of blood that sings even when no one listens. And when she was done, no one clapped. No one cheered. But they stood. In silence. In unity. Like trees bending toward rain. But even as the sun dipped low and chants began, far away, the talisman stirred again. In the swamps of Vegito, Bibi Tembo's bones cracked. She has survived the first fire, she muttered. But the real test comes not from flame, but from betrayal. And in the shadows of the mansion, behind a curtain, Zara wept. Holding a letter sealed with a hawk. And a knife made of bone. The night was thick with silence, but beneath it, a pulse beat steady, like the slow drums of a gathering storm. Inside the grand hall of Kwamapramoko, Anika sat upon the ancient mat woven by her ancestors, her eyes fixed on the letter in Zara's trembling hands. The seal, a hawk in flight, marked the message as one of power and threat. Zara, the once spoiled daughter of Lady Rahima, now wore a face carved by fear and doubt. Mother told me to give you this, she whispered, voice breaking like dry twigs. Anika broke the seal with steady hands. Inside was a message written in ancient script and modern warning. The blood you claim is stained with lies. You are a shadow, a thief of names. Turn from the path, or the storm will consume you. The words burned like fire on the parchment. But Anika did not flinch. She folded the letter and looked up. This is no longer just a family feud, she said quietly. It is war. Outside, the villagers gathered. They had brought drums, spears, and voices filled with hope and fear. Old Mama Jalea approached the steps, her hands clutching a staff crowned with eagle feathers. The mountain calls her, she declared. And we must answer. Mzee Arif stood beside Anika, his presence like the roots of a baobab tree, strong, enduring. We are the sons and daughters of the land, he said. No blade, no curse, no lie can sever this bond. As the night deepened, torches were lit and songs of old rose from the crowd. The air was thick with spirit and fire. But in the shadows, Kivuli watched. His wounds from the last battle had not healed, but his hatred had only grown. He gathered a band of mercenaries from the Wadawa Kivuli, hardened men who answered only to blood and coin. Tonight, he whispered, we strike at the heart. The girl thinks herself queen, but she knows nothing of survival. His men nodded. The hunt was set. As the village sang, Anika stood upon the hill overlooking the fields. She felt the weight of her ancestors pressing on her shoulders, and the fire of her own spirit burning bright within. Her heart beat with the drums. She closed her eyes and whispered the ancient words taught by Mzi-Arif. Harambe, Harambe, together we rise. At that moment, a howl ripped through the night. A warning. The storm had arrived. From the forest edge, shadows spilled into the firelight. Men with faces painted black and white, their weapons gleaming with poison, advanced silently. The villagers grasped their spears and shields, forming a circle around their queen. Anika drew a deep breath. Anika stood at the center, calm like the eye of a cyclone, her voice rising above the tempest. Hold the line. Protect the children. Stand as one. Her people answered with a roar, their courage kindling like dry grass touched by flame. Amidst the fray, Anika's eyes sought the dark figure of Kivuli, moving like a shadow among the trees, his poisoned blade thirsting for her blood. She ducked behind a fallen baobab root, heart pounding, then surged forward, her voice a battle hymn. Kivuli! Your time has come. The two met in the clearing, a duel not just of steel but of ancient curses and buried pain. Kivuli lunged, his blade slicing through the air like a serpent strike. Anika parried, her movements guided by memories of the mountain, the river, and the whispers of her mother. The dance was fierce and swift. But in the heart of the fight, Anika's hand brushed against the talisman, the ivory charm that haunted her dreams. It pulsed with heat. With a sudden cry, she grasped it tightly, and a wave of energy surged through her. The poison in Kivuli's blade hissed and faded. Kivuli staggered back, his eyes wide with fear. You are more than legend, he gasped. Anika's voice was steady. I am the daughter of fire and silence. And you will not break me. With a final strike, she disarmed him. He fell to his knees, defeated but alive. The mercenaries fled into the darkness, their leader broken. The villagers cheered, but Anika's heart was heavy. She knelt beside Kivuli, placing her hand on his shoulder. Why do you hate so deeply? She asked. He looked up, eyes clouded with pain. They took everything from me, my family, my home. I serve only to survive. Anika nodded, understanding the weight of loss. But survival does not require death. There is another path. She helped him to his feet. The dawn broke over the village, washing away blood and shadow with golden light. Anika stood before her people, the shawl of the mountain hawk billowing in the breeze. Today, we fought not just for our lives, but for our future, she declared. Let this be the dawn of a new time, where we rise together, unbroken. The crowd erupted in song, the drums beating a rhythm of hope. Mzi-Arif approached, smiling. You have become the queen your ancestors dreamed of. Anika smiled back, but her eyes held the fire of one who knew the journey was far from over. Far away, in the hidden chambers beneath the mansion, Lady Rahima watched the sunrise with cold eyes. She cradled a dark amulet, whispering curses that twisted like smoke. The hawk may soar today, she hissed, but soon, it will be trapped. And in the shadows, new enemies stirred, unseen, waiting for their moment. The days that followed the battle were heavy with a strange quiet. The villagers worked the fields and tended the fires, but their eyes were wary. Anika knew the victory was but a moment's breath. The true struggle awaited. She spent her mornings with Mzi-Arif, learning the forgotten laws of the land, the rituals of her people, and the ancient words that called the spirits to her side. By night, she sat beneath the great baobab, the stars watching like ancestors' eyes, and whispered prayers to the mothers who had gone before. But the shadows did not rest. Within the walls of Kwamapramoko, Lady Rahima's fury grew like a wildfire stoked by dry winds. Her once proud daughters, Zara and Naima, now walked like ghosts, trapped between loyalty and fear. Zara's tears fell silently as she clutched a letter, this one written not with threats but with sorrow. It was from her brother, Jabari, a name whispered only in secret. He wrote of distant lands, of armies gathering beyond the eastern mountains, and of a fate that could swallow their family whole. He wants peace, Zara told Rahima, voice trembling. But the cost is surrender. Rahima slammed her fist on the table. No surrender, she spat. Not while the hawk still breathes. Anika sensed the tension like the calm before a storm. One afternoon, as she walked the edges of the village, she was approached by an elder with eyes as bright as the morning sun. Anika, he said, the land speaks. It tells of a shadow beyond the mountains, a force older than time itself. If you wish to claim your birthright, you must face it. Her heart tightened. Where do I find this shadow? The elder smiled sadly. In the caves of Ndovu, where the earth hides its secrets. But beware, many who enter never return. That night, Anika stood at the edge of the village, the shawl of the mountain hawk wrapped tight against the wind. Mzi Arif approached, carrying a staff carved with the faces of her ancestors. The path you must take is dangerous, he warned. But it is yours alone. Anika nodded. I will face the shadow. For the land. For my people. For the blood I carry. As the moon rose high, she began her journey, alone but not afraid. The caves of Ndova lay hidden deep within the eastern ridge, shrouded by thick forests and whispered fears. As Anika stepped into the mouth of the cave, the air shifted, cold and heavy with silence. Inside, ancient paintings told stories of battles between spirits and men, of queens who spoke with thunder, and of hawks who ruled the skies. Her footsteps echoed like a heartbeat. Suddenly, a voice rang out, deep and hollow. Who dares enter the domain of shadows? Anika stood tall. I am Anika Nalia. Daughter of the mountain hawk. Heir to the throne forgotten. The cave trembled. From the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in smoke and light. The shadow stepped closer, its form shifting like smoke caught in a sudden wind. Its voice was both many and one, echoing through the cavern like a song sung by forgotten spirits. Anika Nalia, child of fire and stone, why do you claim what was lost? What makes you worthy of the crown carved by ancestors' bones? Anika's breath was steady. I carry the blood of the mountain hawk, the prayers of my mother, and the hopes of my people. I come not to steal, but to remember. To restore. The shadow's eyes, deep pools of night, gleamed with a faint light. Words are wind. The land listens to deeds. Prove yourself. Suddenly, the cavern walls flickered with ancient images, visions of battles, sacrifices, and broken promises. Anika's heart beat in rhythm with the pounding drums she had heard as a child. The shadow gestured, and the ground beneath her feet shifted. She found herself standing at the edge of a vast abyss, a chasm filled with swirling mist. From its depths rose voices, whispers of the past, crying out for justice and peace. To cross, she must answer 3 riddles, each a test of her spirit, her wisdom, and her courage. The first riddle came like a breath. I am born in silence, yet roar through the sky, I am both shield and sword, yet touch no flesh. What am I? Anika closed her eyes. She thought of the wind through the trees, the cry of the hawk above the mountain. The wind, she answered softly. The chasm trembled. A narrow bridge of light appeared. The second riddle was harsher, like thunder rolling through the valley. I consume all, yet leave no scar, I am feared and revered, friend and foe. What am I? Anika remembered the fire in her dreams, the burning within. Fire, she said without hesitation. The bridge widened, glowing warm beneath her feet. The final riddle was silent. No words. Only a mirror of water appeared before her. In it, she saw herself, not the girl who scrubbed floors, but the queen rising from ashes. The shadow spoke one last time. To rule is to carry the weight of every lost soul. Will you bear it? Anika nodded. Yes. I will carry them all. The mirror shimmered and shattered, revealing a path bathed in golden light. She stepped forward, heart alight with resolve. At the end of the path stood a stone altar. Upon it lay a carved hawk feather, glowing with ancient power. Anika reached out and took it. The cave filled with a brilliant light. The shadow smiled, no longer an enemy, but a guardian. You have passed. The land recognizes its queen. When Anika emerged from the caves of Ndovu, the sky was painted with dawn. She held the feather close to her chest. Her journey was far from over, but now she carried the strength of the mountains, the fire of the skies, and the wisdom of the earth. Back at Kwamaparamoko, her people awaited. The hawk had returned, and with her, hope.